One fateful day, racing driver Denny happened to drive by a farm on his way home, where he found a group of dogs confined in cages for sale. When the dogs spotted Denny, it instantly identified him as the individual it had been anticipating. Maybe it was fate. With just one look, Denny picked out that dog from the others and chose to bring it home. From that point forward, Denny became the dog's entire universe. Joyfully, Denny brought the dog home and called it Enzo. Enzo adored his new place, but both Enzo and Denny were beginners at being a dog owner and a dog, respectively. They were both unskilled, which resulted in some clumsiness and misunderstanding. When Denny saw that Enzo needed to go, he swiftly set down his phone and took Enzo to the grass outside. However, Enzo didn't grasp Denny's purpose and believed Denny was toying with it. Before long, Enzo lost the need to urinate. Powerlessly, Denny had to take Enzo back indoors, but as soon as Denny set Enzo down, it relieved itself on the floor, possibly out of fear. Enzo was unable to rest at night. It dashed to Denny's side, leaped onto the bed, and nudged Denny's hand. Awakened from his slumber, Denny realized he couldn't return to sleep. So he chose to rise. Holding Enzo in his arms, he walked to the living room and sat down on the couch. Denny grabbed the remote, switched on the TV, and began watching a car race with Enzo next to him. Denny held Enzo in his arms and then took its paws, showing Enzo how to operate a car. This action opened a new realm for Enzo, and from that point forward it became entirely enamored with racing. But what Enzo didn't foresee was that the following day, Denny really brought it to the racing track. If Denny's flat was Enzo's residence, then the racetrack was its paradise. When Enzo watches Denny racing on the track, he gets really thrilled. When Denny triumphs in the race and secures the championship, Enzo experiences a huge feeling of pride, as if it had triumphed in the race itself. Time goes by without being noticed, and both Denny and Enzo develop together in each other's presence. Throughout the day, Denny races on the track while Enzo plays the role of a supporter, encouraging him. In the evenings, they cuddle up together to view recordings of the day's races, examining every error and flaw. When Enzo spotted Denny on the track, genuinely instructing his students, he realized Denny would ultimately become a leading racer. In Enzo's thoughts, Denny solely fits in it. In this manner, the two individual souls are united, comforting each other, until one day a woman named Eve arrives and disturbs Enzo's formerly tranquil and joyful life. As a focused dog, Enzo feels a significant danger from Eve. It attempts to draw Denny away from her, but clearly, it fails. This time, Denny ignores Enzo. Enzo understands that Denny has been enchanted by Eve. In the coming days, Denny not only asks Eve to their house as a visitor, but also brings her to the racetrack to see his races. This makes Enzo envious. It can't grasp why Denny is fond of this woman because, in its view, Eve is just a bit more aromatic and a bit rounder in the back than itself. What Enzo cannot stand the most is that Eve always presents it with some baffling TV shows, but Denny appears captivated by them. In the days that followed, they spent more and more time together, and their behaviors grew more and more intimate. Enzo thought that Eve was teasing him, which made him quite unhappy, but it was unavoidable. It didn't take long for Denny and Eve to tie the knot, and as a testament to their affection, Enzo served as their flower girl and was in charge of delivering the wedding rings. Denny and Eve's wedding was completed in Enzo's presence. After getting married, Denny and Eve grew bolder and more indulgent, entirely disregarding Enzo. To demonstrate, Enzo intentionally knocked over a picture frame onto the floor, but its actions got no reaction. Enzo could only hesitantly agree to everything, and so, days went by one after another. Out of the blue, one day, Enzo caught a strange smell from Eve. It was a known yet unknown aroma, and Eve appeared quite joyful. Yes, she was expecting. Eve shared the news of her pregnancy with Denny, and Denny was thrilled. To greet the soon-to-arrive new life, Denny began training even more intensely, not skipping any race he could join, just to earn a bit more cash for baby formula. However, this also resulted in him spending less time at home, and Enzo ended up spending more time by himself with Eve when Denny was not present. Enzo would step up to assist Eve with tasks within its abilities, which could be seen as helping to look after her. But as Eve's belly expanded, she would frequently feel fatigued. Whenever Enzo saw Eve like this, it would be reminded of his own mother. It was astonishing that a person's body could support another new life. It seemed like enchantment, nearly like wizardry. Before long, Eve's due date was nearing. At this moment, Denny got a call inviting him from a leading racing team. The team asked him to join a race, which was an opportunity Denny had always wished for, but now he was unsure because when he figured out the timing, the race was set for the day before Eve's due date. He was worried that if he couldn't return in time, he would miss the arrival of their baby. However, Eve promised him that her due date would not be ahead of schedule. As long as Denny completed the race and hurried back, he would arrive on time. This unique chance, Eve didn't want Denny to overlook it. Convinced by Eve, Denny ultimately decided to join the race, but unforeseen events frequently occur unexpectedly. Eve's expected date arrived sooner than anticipated. That evening, Enzo was occupied looking after Eve while nervously following Denny's live stream of the race on TV. It was darting back and forth, active like a dog. At last, with the sound of a baby's wail, the child came into the world. Enzo swiftly dashed over. It was an adorable little girl. However, the midwife did not permit Enzo to come near. Eve chimed in and said it was fine. Eve summoned Enzo to the bedside, and Enzo gently approached her. Gazing at the tiny creature before it, which was not even as large as itself, Enzo struggled to believe that such a lovely being could be present in the world. From that point forward, Enzo deliberately accepted the duty of safeguarding little Zoe. Enzo was with Zoe as she matured, from her cooing toddler phase to her energetic and spirited childhood. Enzo consistently, selflessly looked after her. Time passed quickly, and Enzo was absorbed in it, unable to escape, even losing track of time. It was with Zoe through every year, marking her birthdays one after another. Zoe would often say to her friends that Enzo was her brother, which made Enzo feel very proud for a dog, to have a family that cared for him and live with the people he loved. Enzo felt no remorse in this life, yet instances of joy are always temporary. At one moment, Enzo began to detect a bad smell coming from Eve. It was similar to the scent of decaying wood. Enzo wished to alert Eve, but it couldn't talk. It despised itself for being a dog. Eve was unable to grasp its significance at all. The sole thing Enzo could do now was to keep an eye on her. Denny continued to arrive home late because of races. Eve didn't mention her discomfort and instead expressed worry for Denny's race, motivating him to give his all and not quit. It was just at this moment that Enzo finally realized why Denny loved the woman in front of him. As time went on, Eve's health declined. She began having intense vomiting and nearly passed out. She quickly took little Zoe to locate her grandparents. In her rush, she overlooked Enzo at home. Starving, Enzo could only consume the pet food that had dropped on the floor. When parched, it had to look for water in the toilet. In this scenario, Enzo waited for a complete 40 hours until Denny eventually came back home, and only then did it enjoy a fulfilling meal. When Eve, who had changed for the better, came home at this time, she quickly went to Enzo and said sorry to him. However, Enzo observed that her state appeared to have deteriorated. At last, one day, while hiking a mountain in the park with Enzo, Eve couldn't maintain her grip any longer and fell to the ground. Watching Eve collapse, Enzo was unsure of what to do. It didn't have the courage to leave Eve's side and could only remain in place. Urgently howling, wishing that someone would see them. Thanks to Enzo's constant efforts, Eve was ultimately saved. Enzo felt truly sorry for being merely a dog. After hearing the news, Denny hurried back overnight. He left Enzo in his friend's care and went into the hospital. While with Denny's friend, no one looked after it or focused on it, which made Enzo feel especially lost. It wished to return home. And so Enzo spent 2 weeks in the oily-smelling workshop until Denny finally arrived to collect it. Yet, Enzo never noticed Eve's shape. Through Denny's buddy, Enzo found out that Eve was dealing with a serious illness and couldn't leave the hospital for now. This indicated that Denny had to look after Eve and could no longer join in races. To better support Eve, Denny began working at an auto repair shop based on his friend's suggestion and started attempting different new tasks. Each day after leaving Zoe at school, he needed to hurry back to work. In the afternoon, Zoe would be sent to her grandparents' home for a short time after school. Whenever Denny found himself by himself, he would sit there absorbed in contemplation for a long while. Life had struck Denny, leaving him emotionally hurt. Enzo didn't want to see Denny in this state, so it would actively take him out to seek comfort. With Enzo's loyal friendship, Denny slowly came out of the shadows. Time went by, and after 3 months of medical care, Eve finally stepped out of the hospital. She came back home, but this house was not theirs. It was owned by Denny's in-laws, who thought that Eve would get the best treatment with them. As a result, Denny faced many hardships. Even though the entire family looked after Eve carefully, fate did not smile upon them because of it. Eve's state declined, and Enzo didn't want her to go. It watched over her bedside all day and night, even though it wasn't sure if its efforts would matter. All Enzo understood was that if anyone wanted to take Eve away, they would have to get past it first. During the night, Eve sensed her time was limited. Gazing at Enzo before her, she gently stated, "I'm no longer scared because I understand this is not the conclusion." After sunrise, Eve's life ultimately came to a close. Although Denny was ready, her leaving still filled him with great sorrow. Enzo gazed as if it had lost its spirit. The following day, they organized a funeral for Eve, and all were present. For some reason, Enzo stayed at home. Gazing at the room where Eve had previously stayed, now bare and unoccupied, Enzo could only grab the hat she had worn and hold it with a feeling of sorrow. Right after Eve's funeral, Denny had not yet healed from his grief when his father-in-law began disputing with him about custody of Zoe. His father-in-law thought that Zoe living with them was the best option. However, this action totally angered Denny, and the two of them had a huge argument. During the fight, Denny unintentionally shoved his father-in-law down. He had no idea that this nudge would lead to great trouble for him. The following day, while Denny was at his job, the police arrived at his door. It became clear that his father-in-law had informed on him, and Denny was taken by the police for deliberate harm, although he was briefly freed soon after by a lawyer friend. The attorney told Denny that if he was found guilty, custody of Zoe would go to his father-in-law. Additionally, for the upcoming 3 months, his bank account would be locked, and he would be banned from seeing Zoe. Initially, he lost his spouse, and now he was about to lose his daughter. Under this dual impact, Denny fell apart. Denny, who had lost it all, dashed in the rain, expressing his sorrow. Enzo, concerned about Denny, trailed closely behind, but Enzo was aged, and it appeared that it couldn't match Denny's speed. When they arrived at a junction, Enzo did not see a car coming. Denny quickly took Enzo to a pet clinic. Following a doctor's assessment, it was found that Enzo was facing considerable internal bleeding, along with some harm to his kidneys. Even though the doctors did everything they could to save Enzo's life and temporarily stabilized him, they also warned Denny that because of Enzo's age, with injuries this serious, he might not survive the night under normal conditions. Denny felt consumed by guilt and quietly wished for Enzo's recovery. Enzo, in contrast, couldn't stand to witness Denny feeling sad. Denny had already lost even Zoe. If even Enzo were to leave him now, Denny would really have nothing remaining. Maybe the heavens listened to his prayers. Incredibly, Enzo was able to hang on and made a solid recovery. On that day, Denny's attorney friend came to him with a contract. Denny was told by his friend that if he surrendered custody rights, his father-in-law would drop the charges against him and set up visitation time with Zoe later on. After a number of difficulties, Denny finally decided to make a concession. Enzo gazed at Denny as he signed the contract, realizing that if Denny proceeded with it, he would no longer be the strong Denny he once knew. This was definitely not what Eve would have wished to see, nor was it what Enzo wanted to observe. So Enzo jumped up, grabbed the agreement from Denny's hand, and ripped it to shreds outside. Enzo's move fully roused Denny. He quickly understood his error and chose to battle for custody of his daughter. In court, all the proof appeared to indicate Denny's guilt, which was detrimental to his case. Just when everyone thought that he would lose the case, Denny's mother-in-law stepped forward and disclosed the truth. She informed the judge that she didn't see anything on the day of the event. All the statements were forced by Denny's father-in-law. It was her statements that ultimately caused the father-in-law to lose the case. Denny successfully got back custody of Zoe, just as he had wished. On Zoe's 9th birthday, her grandparents visited Denny's home to celebrate. Even with the discomfort, Denny decided to pardon his father-in-law in the end. Zoe celebrated a cheerful and delightful birthday, surrounded by family and friends. But no one saw that Enzo was lying beneath the table, and by now he didn't have the energy to get up and celebrate with Zoe. Shortly after getting back home, Denny found Enzo sprawled on the floor. He lifted Enzo and settled on the couch, softly petting his old and white fur. As before, Denny and Enzo sat silently observing a racing event on TV. Out of the blue, Denny recalled that he had never competed with Enzo all these years. He rented a vivid red sports car just for Enzo. Denny put Enzo in the passenger seat and fastened his seatbelt. Denny drove since Enzo was unable to. Enzo sat still in the car, sensing the breeze blowing on his face. This was a moment he had envisioned numerous times. Right now, all he wished for was that Denny wouldn't halt, and they would continue running side by side. Enzo recalled a show he once watched on TV. It was mentioned that in Mongolia, individuals thought that a dog could be reborn as a human after passing away. However, not every dog was qualified. Only those who were ready would be selected. And Enzo understood that he was prepared. "You've been a great companion." 8 years later, just as Enzo had expected, Denny became an excellent racing driver. On this day, a dad and his son came to Denny, saying that their boy looked up to him a lot and had been eager to meet him.